You're live.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
Potentially.
Okay, you're live.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, once again. 5 News meteorologist Noah Simmons here, alongside Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert, and meteorologist Danny Cassidy is potentially still here. He might have already left. He was working on something here momentarily, but we got to look at some more storms, and we technically do have one more severe thunderstorm warning. And interestingly enough, actually, this severe thunderstorm warning, which is in northern Crawford County, this is actually warned mainly for some wind. Most of this evening, the last several hours, has all been hail reports. We've seen lots of hail, especially in parts of the Ouachitas and south of Interstate 40, where some of our hail reports were at. And so we'll kind of jump right into some tracking out there. And give me a few seconds so it loads, and we can jump right into this. All right, here we go. And we're going to be talking about this storm here, and we'll rotate this. Okay, so here we go. We got one severe thunderstorm warning right now. We'll take a look at that right off the gate. And like I just mentioned, this is for Crawford County, northwestern Crawford County. So Van Buren, we're down here into the south. Here's Alma. Here's Mountainburg. This storm's just west of Mountainburg, and we're going to continue to see some of those storms packing some gusty winds up to 60 miles an hour. Most of these storms, like I just mentioned, were packing some larger hail. And you can kind of notice the hail size under an inch. Usually we're looking at about an inch in diameter for a severe thunderstorm to be severe in terms of hail standards. But this includes the cities of Cedarville. And again, we're going to be talking about that here over the next, say, half an hour. This warning goes until 11:15 p.m., so the next 30 minutes. And we can actually look at winds a little bit, and we'll kind of take off this warning box so you guys get a better idea of that storm out there. So really the kind of the strongest winds are just north of Uniontown. They're going to be entering the Cedarville area, if not already on top of you. And we'll kind of jump into some winds right now and kind of see what we're seeing out there. Luckily, no rotation to point out or anything of that nature, but you kind of see those strong greens. We're looking at the radar site from Tulsa, and so the we might be looking at the Fort Smith radar. We're kind of on the cusp. We're actually probably looking at that Fort Smith radar from this storm, but you kind of see the greens. They're going toward the radar, so they're coming this way. That would make the most sense with that storm, and we could potentially actually sample some of the winds out here, especially in the strong bright green. I would say the winds have probably come down a little bit. Earlier they were a little bit over 50 miles an hour that the Doppler radar was measuring. Right now we're potentially right on maybe near 40 miles an hour wind gusts, which is still enough to bring some small tree limbs and some tree branches down. So hopefully this storm is potentially showing some signs of weakening a little bit, and hopefully we can be done streaming in the next 20 to 30 minutes, since we've been on since about 4:35 this afternoon, especially with some of those large hailers in LaFleur and Scott County. So that's the winds we're talking about with that storm. We'll jump back to radar. We've just been focused on this, but a lot of folks are still seeing some heavier rain and some heavier showers and storms. Still an active radar. I would figured the radar would be a bit more quieter here by about 11 p.m. And you'll notice that the bulk of the rainfall is into Washington County, also Madison County. So pretty much Fayetteville and points south along Interstate 49 there. And until we get to about Mountainburg, there's a bit of a lull. We also have a little bit of a lull in the Fort Smith area. We also just got hit in the Fort Smith from this cluster of storms. And we'll kind of zoom in and talk about some of those as well. So still lots of storms, kind of a stormy night. These are expected to work their way eastward, though, through time. You'll kind of see Charleston to Lavaca to Greenwood, Mansfield, seeing a heavier pocket of rainfall as this continues to push its way eastward. Keep in mind, yesterday, if I have my days correct, unless this was 2 days ago, I've already lost track of time. I'm pretty sure some of these same areas, especially in the Logan County, saw some really heavy rainfall yesterday. So we got to watch for some localized areas of flooding out there as we continue to see some of these heavier pockets of showers and thunderstorms right now. We'll kind of we'll pan over a little bit to our Sequoia County cell as well. Sallisaw has been hit multiple times with multiple storms. Some of them have been severe, some of them not. This one's not severe at the moment, but that's going to be pushing its way eastward as well. You can kind of see Muldrow into Roland. The heaviest precip, though, is on the Sallisaw. I know we had a lot of hail reports out there, and you might be wondering, well, are we still seeing some hail with some of these storms? Well, here's kind of a quick little answer for you. And, we'll go to hail detector. Yeah, there's potentially some small hail with this cell that we talked about that was severe warned in northern Crawford County. No hail looks like in Washington or Madison County. We did have some hail earlier in the evening. I kind of want to focus in, though, potentially on some non-severe storms that just south of the Fort Smith area. And there might be a question on the stream, and I don't have the stream pulled up. I could, of course, do that here in a little bit. But this red box, that's a flash flood warning. It's not a tornado warning, so we don't have to worry about tornado warnings. Kind of see the red here off in Oklahoma. Those are flash flood warnings for some very heavy rain that's kind of trained and moved over the same exact location. So that's a flash flood warning. That includes parts of Scott County. Here's some of the hail that I was potentially talking about. Again, it's not super big, and unfortunately, if I maybe even zoom in a little bit closer, well, that didn't do anything. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here. And so here's the thing. If you're maybe just now tuning in, earlier about 4 hours ago, places like Midland and Hartford got hit with some giant hail. We had hail the size of tennis and baseball size, which is just insane to think about. But Hartford got hit with some hail earlier this evening. They might potentially be getting hit with some more hail right now. Now, it's not going to be anything close to tennis ball sized hail, but potentially maybe some penny size, maybe some nickel size hail. We can maybe sample some of that here. Yeah, we got some pennies falling and near Midland and into Hartford. This is in Sebastian County, so we're zoomed in on Sebastian County right now. Potentially some pea-sized, penny-sized hail in there. As long as it stays small hail, that's some good news, and hopefully it becomes it stays below severe limits here. Yeah, it's a loud thunderstorm out there. Lots of heavy pockets of rainfall between Hartford to Midland to Dayton as well. Here's Slaytonville, I believe that's what that says. And we'll zoom out a little bit more here, because we still have lots of showers and storms pushing their way through the region. This one here in eastern Scott County, not severe, but Waldron still getting some heavy downpours. I know we have some higher terrain in parts of the Ouachitas. Sometimes you can get some fast runoff with some of those topography changes. So our streams are for sure going to be swollen with multiple rounds of heavy rainfall that we've seen out there. And you kind of get the idea from Mansfield to Waldron, some of those heavier pockets of rainfall. This red polygon, that's a flash flood warning. So we're in southeastern Scott County, just east of Wise City. We got some heavy rainfall, potentially flash flooding, either ongoing or potentially about to occur. So just keep that in mind. If you encounter a flood-covered road or a water-covered roadway, we always preach, turn around, don't drown. You don't know if there's a sinkhole. You don't know how deep that water is. It could sweep you off either your car or your feet. We certainly don't want that. And here's a little home base view. We have one severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're just joining us, we have one severe thunderstorm warning. That is for Crawford County, and this is warned for up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Doesn't mean sustained winds of 50, 60. It just means that the storms could produce some wind gusts upwards close to 60 miles an hour for this northwestern Crawford County. So still have some heavy rain, lots of thunder, lots of lightning. It's probably still keeping you up, maybe keeping your dog and your pets up. They might be shaken from their storm anxiety. My dog at home, has some storm anxiety for sure. Washington County, we're definitely hearing the thunder and seeing the lightning out there. Same thing in Salsa and Sequoia County. And lots of lightning here happening in southern Sebastian County. That's that cell where we had a little bit of hail start to show up there, and that's going to continue to push its way southeastward through time. Still have some heavier pockets of rainfall there in Logan County. We'll zoom in on you guys in Logan County. We'll just talk about it for a little bit here. And I can't remember if I said this, but this severe warning at the moment, unless it gets extended, but this would go until 11:30. So the next, or sorry, not 11:30, 11:15. I'm losing my marbles. This would go to 11:15, that severe warning. So about the next 20 to 30 minutes. And hopefully it expires and we don't have any more severe weather. We'll still have sporadic storms to kind of deal with the next few hours, but that's what we're talking about here. Here's Logan County and southern Franklin County, if we'll zoom in a little bit closer here. And some heavier pockets of showers between Charleston, say Coxville, Branch, Paris, even from Boonville to Magazine, even Mount Magazine State Park. Definitely some of those moderate to heavy downpours that we're going to be seeing out there. And we'll kind of zoom back out here a little bit. Actually, not zoom out. We're just going to continue to pan our way from Charleston, south of Lavaca, Greenwood. Fort Smith is up here where my hand is. Here's the Fort Smith radar that this storm is getting sampled at. We go from Mansfield to Greenwoods. Really heavy pockets of rainfall, potentially some hail here. We'll take a look at hail one more time. It's not severe at the moment, but we certainly still have Potential for some small hail with that. And it looks like we had a special weather statement for this cell. A special weather statement just means it's not up to severe criteria, but we're potentially seeing some small hail, maybe some gusty winds up to maybe 40, 50 miles an hour. And that's with this cell that we just talked about in southern Sebastian County, working its way into Logan County here where Boonville is. We kind of see some of that hail just west of Mansfield. If I kind of go a little bit further southwest, we can maybe take a look at the hail. My guess is that this is probably going to be pennies to nickel-sized hail here. Hopefully nothing bigger. Well, potentially maybe up to quarter-sized hail. I'm sure the Weather Service is monitoring that closely. If we do see hail that big, it would be near the Mansfield area. Again, that is up to quarter-sized hail. Doesn't mean every single hailstone that falls is going to be quarter-sized, but you kind of get the idea that this is in far southern Sebastian County. Here's Greenwood, here's Mansfield, and then here's Scott County to my south. So that's what we're talking about there. It has a special weather statement for some small hail and potentially some gusty winds as well.
That would eventually track into the greater Van Buren Fort Smith area. You may have just said that. I was touching base with Danny Cassidy here. That's going to be for that just to the west of that specific severe warning cell as it continues to roll through Adair, Sequoia, and soon going to clip parts of Crawford and Sebastian County. I do want to pass along something else to you as well. I think at some point in the middle of a lot of that chaos, there was a new watch issued for parts of the area. It's going to be a severe thunderstorm watch. You may want to pull that up, Noah, on your screen. That does include almost the entire 5 News viewing area with the exception of only about 3 counties. This is going to be the exception being Delaware, Benton, and Johnson counties. Not quite sure why they left Johnson out. That's an interesting move there, but nonetheless, that is kind of what we're looking at, that watch. Now, when does it expire? I don't know. I haven't clicked on it yet. That's going to be, well, for the one in Crawford, Sebastian, Sequoia, that's going to go in effect until midnight. So that's the original one. The other one for Franklin, Madison, Washington, Carroll, that runs until midnight as well. And then for Scott and Logan counties, that one technically runs until 6 a.m. And I know that sounds like a really, really long night for a lot of folks in Scott and Logan counties. I have a high degree of confidence that we are looking at that probably being trimmed far sooner than that. Now, it may be a couple, 3 more hours, but I don't think it'll run until 6 a.m.
Yes, great points made there by Scott. That pink area is a severe thunderstorm watch, and it kind of varies wherever you are. Basically, the bottom line, once we kind of get past midnight, 1 a.m., severe potential really goes down, and we're not going to be talking about severe potential for much longer. At least that's the hope, and that's the goal based on what we're going to be seeing here with some of our forecast data. So that's the current watch we have. Again, Johnson County, not included in it. They did see a severe thunderstorm warning earlier today. They potentially could see maybe some stronger storms push through the next couple hours. We'll jump back to radar real quick here. And this is what we're seeing out there, Doppler radar. And basically shows that we got that severe thunderstorm warning still for Crawford County. And it's still, we got some stronger thunderstorms that aren't severe warning at the moment, but are still packing some gusty winds out there. In fact, we'll take a look at some of those winds that the Fort Smith radar is measuring. Here's the Fort Smith radar. That's kind of that beam that's kind of rotating here. So yeah, Sallisaw rolling to Muldrow, still getting hit there. If you're on the Van Buren side, especially north of Van Buren up into Cedarville, getting hit with some heavy rainfall right now. We'll take a look at our velocities and basically just our winds with this severe thunderstorm warning, even also with some of our, looks like this got expired.
That is indeed exactly what just happened. That Weather Service has expired that specific warning for Crawford. We love it. And
you have you've been looking at the National Weather Service chat a bit more, Scott.
Sure.
Did they replace this with a special weather statement then?
They did not. I apologize, they did. I was in Little Rock's chat and checking on some other information. But yes, you're exactly right. That was replaced with a special weather statement. That does include parts of Franklin County as well. Right now, the winds with this specific storm are only reaching about 50 miles per hour. And so for some context, it's 58 mile per hour winds in which we need to have a severe thunderstorm warning. So we're just below that, not by much, but we are below that. And that's good news. With that said, locations such as Fort Smith, Cedarville, Alma, Dyer, Rudy, Figure 5, Kibler, Concord, Piney, Dora, Van Buren, of course, Mountainburg and Mulberry, Chester, Lake Fort Smith State Park, Fern also getting ready, Central City, Shibley, and Locke are included in the path of that storm that is going to produce those 50-mile-per-hour winds.
Okay, thank you for that. And well, that's good news is that our storms right now are below severe limits. Doesn't mean they might not have some small hail and some gusty winds up to, say, 45, 50 miles an hour in some spots, but just goes to show you that luckily we're starting to reach below severe limits. However, if we're in the Fort Smith and Van Buren area, the storm will pack at least a small punch. And what I mean by small punch is that some gusty winds, maybe some pea-sized hail, obviously lots of thunder and lightning that's going to maybe keep you up, or, you know, hopefully, we don't have any power outages. Which actually reminds me, I'm not sure if we do have any power outages across the area. We've had large hail, lots of lightning, very electric storms here.
I will check on that. I've not seen any that have come my way. With that said, I'm not sure they would have actually made it to me, given all that's gone on. I'm checking right now, though. Stand by. Give me about 20 seconds while you're on that note.
While Scott's looking at that, here's kind of that line of storms that was just severe warned, but now it's below severe criteria. Doesn't mean it doesn't have gusty winds getting into Mountainburg here, just south of Interstate 49 to the Alma. We got the 49-40 interchange here near the Alma area, and we also got the Van Buren area just north of Fort Smith, Lavaca just to my south. So you get the idea. This stronger line of storms is going to continue to push its way eastward and southeastward throughout the Fort Smith area, the Van Buren area, the Alma, Mulberry, and eventually potentially into Ozark as these storms kind of continue to push their way eastward. We're in Muldrow South, so the worst of it's almost over. And when I say worst of it, we're not really seeing too bad of conditions out there. And Scott, do we have maybe a look at some power outages potentially?
Yeah, so our biggest county with power outages right now is Washington County, sitting right at 4,900 customers. You know, you start to average out about each home having about 3 people, of course, some more, some less, but on average about 3. You know, you're looking at probably around 12,000 or so individuals currently sitting in the dark this evening. None in Crawford County, about 24 people in Sebastian County without power. Back up to Benton County, 436 customers without power there. Overall, severe weather potential does continue to trend down, but as Noah has said, that storm coming out of Crawford into parts of Franklin and Sebastian County, it is going to have some wind, it is going to have some rain, and frequent lightning and thunder. In fact, if we want to pull up, if we still got Trevor with us, if we can pull up our Mercy Fort Smith camera, I've got this thing pointed off towards the west, and it's going to start to see the leading edge of that line getting ready to come closer and closer. Let me know when we have that. I'm not actually standing in front. Oh, we do have it. Okay. I'm not standing in front of a monitor to look at it, but you can see.
Right. Yeah, you kind of see, it's not pulling up the monitor that I'm looking at right now, but based on my peripheral vision, you kind of see some of those little clouds, especially as we're kind of looking into that storm. And I do want to bring to your attention, we do have a new warning to pass along to you. This is in Scott County and southern Logan County, as this severe thunderstorm warning is actually our most furthest southernmost cell. We talked about it. It did have some hail earlier, and this is also going to be moving into a environment that's already seen some storms. Places like Waldron, Boonville has already seen a couple storms there. You kind of see that moving its way southeastward. Lots of lightning to talk about, and we'll kind of get a little closer look at this storm here because we are looking at another severe thunderstorm. We thought we were going to be, on the downtrend, and we still are on the downtrend, but of course you can still kind of get a couple of these storms that kind of pulse up and slightly become severe. So we'll look at hail here real quick. And definitely a little bit of hail potentially moving into Scott County. And we also could have some gusty winds with this as well. We'll look at some of our storm winds. Kind of messy right now. Again, we're looking from the Fort Smith radar, which is just to our north. And so these reds are going away from the radar. So these are the winds kind of coming into Scott County right now. That's what those reds are. And we can sample some of the winds. This is just a radar estimate. It's not ground truth necessarily. But you can kind of see that we're going to have some strong winds that just push through Mansfield. So upwards of 50 miles an hour. And you kind of get the idea that, we got some strong winds that just move through Mansfield. And this trajectory is going to take it southeastward into parts of Logan County. So in the Boonville area and just south of Boonville, into the Tate area on the Scott-Logan County border, and eventually into Scott County, kind of near the Waldron area. Waldron, you are included in the severe thunderstorm warning, and so that's what we're going to be talking about here these next several minutes. And this warning is for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So it's a base severe thunderstorm warning to talk about there. Again, the severe thunderstorm watch is going to continue for the overnight hours here, and that's what that warning kind of encompasses. So we'll take a look a little bit closer, and we'll get a little storm track on this, because this is technically our only severe thunderstorm warning, and every time we say that, we think we're going to be done, and then another one gets issued. But that's the name of the game. Sometimes you get some of these storms that kind of pulse up a little bit, and Scott, I'm not sure if you're occupied. I did not get a chance to look how fast that storm was moving.
I can handle that as well. Give me 20 seconds here, less than that. That one's moving currently at 35 miles per hour, southeast at 35 miles per hour.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get a little quick storm track on that. Southeast at 35 miles an hour. These storms today have not really moved super fast today. Some that's a good sign, some that's a bad sign. And well, here's the kind of the issue with this storm track, is that you still have some heavy rain just out ahead of it, just northeast of Waldron, but we'll still put a storm track on that for the gusty winds there. We're going to be talking about Grayson about 11:11. It's on Tate right now, but again, Grayson 11:11, into Waldron about 11:17, the Pines 11:22, Parks 11:36, Gravelly 11:41, Briggsville, that would probably take it outside of our viewing area by about 11:50. So hopefully the storm is below severe limits by, say, 11:45, 11:50. But that's kind of a storm track that's moving southeast at 35. It's going to slice through far southern Logan County, but it's also going to slice through Scott County as well. So if you're wondering what this is right here, that's a flash flood warning. That's for southeastern Scott County. I know it's red, a little confusing.
I'm going to change that. I'm so sick of it. I'm going to change it to green. I promise. I'm going to do it.
But again, yeah, just kind of to kind of calm anyone's fears, that is just a flash flood warning. We've had heavy pockets of rainfall. Sometimes you haven't been hit with just one storm. It's been 2, 3 storms, and they produce some very heavy rainfall. We got a lot of moisture that contributed to a lot of energy and instability aloft, and that's when you had some strong updrafts with some large hail out there. So that's what we're looking at here with this Scott County cell between Boonville and Waldron. Just pushed through the Mansfield area, and we'll go and look at hail real quick. And well, the hail potentially has maybe pulsed up just a little bit, and that's probably another reason why that warning is in place. So yeah, we got quarter-sized hail about to cross into Scott County right now with that particular storm, and that's going to kind of continue to about 11:45 p.m. with this severe warning. The greatest hail core just south of Mansfield, that's going to kind of continue to track its way southeastward. However, if we kind of jump back to radar there we go, and eventually we're going to get to radar here. Oop. Bear with me here. Oh, looks like things. Oh, we got some. We got an RDOT camera. We're looking. This is in the. Is this the Van Buren on Interstate 40?
This is going to be exactly right. This is going to be Highway 59 at Interstate 40.
Yeah. Oh, lots of electric in the atmosphere. Lots of lightning.
A little bit of wind there too.
And this is going to be for that storm that's pushing through the Van Buren-Fort Smith area. That's not severe at the moment, but definitely some gusty winds, maybe some small hail, but obviously it's lots of lightning with that. Kind of jump back to radar. That's what we were looking at. There was that camera on Interstate 40 there in the Van Buren area. Lots of heavy rain, lots of heavy thunderstorms across the area. You kind of jump to right, Scott County, southern Logan County. That's where our severe warning is. And well, we're definitely going to be seeing that kind of continue. If you're maybe watching from northwest Arkansas, we're going to be seeing, if you're watching northwest Arkansas, the bulk of that rainfall is continuing to push its way southeastward. So it's really into Madison County, Washington County right now. And you can kind of see some of that heavier rain potential there. Even if we look at our hail detector, between Mansfield, just south of Mansfield and parts of the Ouachitas, you kind of get really some of the spines of the Ouachitas. You can kind of see that there on the map. That's basically where our hail cores is on one of these ridges. And we'll kind of jump into back to radar here. And we'll continue to take a look at this storm as it continues to trek its way southeastward. We'll just do a quick home base setup and talk about what we're going to be seeing here. Our severe potential is slowly going to be going down. The radar's not as active in terms of warnings as it was about 3-4 hours ago. That's some good news, but we did have a warning in Crawford County that has been dropped, but we still have some heavier showers and storms that we're going to zoom in here in just a moment in Fort Smith, Van Buren area up to Salisaw. We got this one.
A bit more active. So at any point, Noah, you want to take a look at Mercy Fort Smith, let me know.
Okay. Honestly, we can take it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, if we get the chance. Is someone in the control booth going to pull that up, or do I need to pull that?
Yeah, I got it pulled up. Oh, he's got that right there. Okay. So this is our Mercy Fort Smith camera looking due west into that specific cell that is going to continue rolling into the Fort Smith area and points off towards the south there. Again, right now it's not severe. A lot of lightning and a lot of thunder with it. However, specifically, it is just below those severe weather thresholds at the moment. Let's hope that continues. But I do expect some gusty winds up to 50 or so miles per hour out of that one, as well as that potential for maybe some small hail mixing in. I'm not seeing a lot of hail signatures rolling through Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma right now, or even back off towards, let's say, Salisaw. It's all part of the same little cluster of thunderstorms that is going to be working its way towards Mulberry, eventually towards Barling and Kibler, as well as eventually towards Charleston and Branch, just further down the line. It's not moving very fast, so that's not going to get there super quickly, but certainly something to be mindful of. When we go back to that one specific, you can go ahead and go back to Noah on the wall. Noah, I think you're about to look into that warning in Scott County. It looks like that hail may be coming right back up just a bit.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this guy real quick, and if the hail is coming up, man, it's unfortunate news for folks in Scott County. They've gotten, not just in Scott County, LaFleur County, they've gotten slammed with some large hail. So obviously these folks don't want to deal with it again at about, 11 o'clock in the evening, 11 o'clock at night. So we'll look at hail. You kind of see this is where the strongest storm is with the highest reflectivity, the reds, the pinks. I would suggest hail core is probably now into Scott County, and we'll take a look at that right now. And yeah, the hail's probably come up a little bit earlier. It's kind of those light blue colors. Here's the legend up top there. Now we're starting to get into the dark blue, so potentially maybe some $quarter to $half size hail, maybe a little bit bigger. Let's take a look. Oh, let me redo this here. There we go. And we'll take a look and see what it's measuring here. Yeah, potentially ping pong sized hail, and it's going to be in a very localized area. There's not going to be ping pong ball sized hail across this whole line necessarily, but kind of get the idea where those dark blues are as they work their way into Scott County. So if we're in Waldron, we're under that severe thunderstorm warning polygon here, as that hail is going to kind of continue to push its way southeastward into Waldron and potentially quarter to ping pong ball sized hail. Say that 3 times fast. And that's what we're going to be looking at here with that storm. Hail elsewhere across the area. Luckily, no reports of any hail to pass along. We'll kind of jump back to radar and real quick. This is outside our area, but maybe if you're familiar with anyone that lives maybe south of our viewing area, there was, I believe, I'm not sure if it's still confirmed, but there was a tornado warning kind of by the Murfreesboro, Arkansas area. So we're northeast of Texarkana. This is well out of our viewing area, but there was, I believe, a confirmed tornado warning where this red polygon is, I believe, southwest of Arkadelphia and southwest of Hot Springs. So just want to maybe bring that to some folks' attention if they do have family or friends that potentially live in the Murfreesboro area of Arkansas. But we'll kind of focus back in here on the 5 News area. One warning, one severe warning right now, and that's for some larger hail. We just talked about it, quarter, potentially ping pong ball sized hail, some gusty winds with that. These storms that are moving through Fort Smith right now, we'll zoom in a little bit closer on these. They're packing a little bit of a punch in terms of maybe some gusty winds. And we kind of took a look at that Fort Smith camera. Van Buren's getting hit pretty hard with some heavy rain, lots of thunder and lightning. The good news is that between Mountainburg to Alma to Fort Smith, the Waldron to Salisaw, non-severe, still packing a bit of a punch. It's still loud out there, and we can maybe take a look at maybe if our winds are kind of breezy and kind of gusty out there. So right now, nothing really jumps out to me, and what would jump out to me is if we saw some bright greens and almost a light blue shade. We don't really see that. I guess we do see some bright greens, and to maybe just rest assured we can maybe sample some of these winds, but they're probably well below 45 miles an hour as we kind of look at some of these. Yeah, 30. This is probably going to be 30-ish. Yeah, about 30 miles an hour. And that's why these storms are below severe. So as a gusty winds, yeah, it's obviously something we can all handle, though. And that's some good news out there. Scott, do you have any more updates to pass along?
No updates to pass along. I've been actually working with some of our digital folks to continue getting us some reports to come in. A bit of a shift change after the 10 o'clock newscast here, so kind of getting a lot of folks up to speed and making that transition there. No, doing a great job. That severe thunderstorm warning is the one that specifically does exhibit that potential for some larger hail. I'm looking at our cameras, all of them in Fort Smith. We have several there in and around the river valley. I'm not seeing the hail. Now it's dark and it's in the middle of a lot of rain, right? So it's tough to necessarily see if there's any small hail that could be mixing in. I think that's a real possibility for us. The other issue here is we've got a lot of wind that's coming through right around 40 to 50 miles per hour. So sub-severe, right below that severe weather threshold. So no warnings necessarily to pass along, but what do you say I take you through a little camera tour here across Fort Smith? Trevor, I can actually do it on my end. If you want to go ahead and pull Max 2 up in the full screen, we can get a look at what's happening. First, we're going to start here with our Mercy Fort Smith. This is again situated along Rogers Avenue. I've got it pointed just to the west right here. I have seen a fair amount of lightning and then of course some thunder. You're hearing that. Obviously can't see the thunder, but you're hearing that there in Fort Smith. Things are getting really intense here on the banks of the Arkansas River. This camera sits on the Marshals Museum and it's looking pretty much due west there over into Oklahoma. So you can kind of see the heavier rain curtain beginning to move a little bit closer, kind of crossing the Garrison Bridge there as it approaches the Marshals Museum. Expect the rain and those 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts to start to be impacting that part of town. And eventually later on, we'll start to see that leading edge, which is actually better seen from this vantage point. This is from our ACHE camera, specifically south side of Fort Smith. I've got it pointed towards the north. You can kind of get a better idea of the big picture of what that storm looks like. This will also track this direction, bringing some additional rain and thunderstorms to South Fort Smith, as well as into southern Sebastian County. Before I take you back to NOAA, let me do this. I've still got the Van Buren Highway 59 at Interstate 40 camera pulled up, and you can at times really see some of those stronger wind gusts coming out of that cell just based off of the trees alone. And of course, travel up and down Interstate 40 between, let's say, Vian and really over to, at this point, Mulberry is going to be a little bit impacted by this round of rain and storms that is continuing to track through. Again, it's not severe, but just because it doesn't have a warning with it doesn't mean it's not causing you a little bit of heartburn and impact in your evening out there. This storm is most intense between Fort Smith, Van Buren, Kibler, Alma, Dyer, and soon you'll start to see the rain and wind pick up in Mulberry. Again, not warned at the moment, but certainly could be packing some decent wind with it. Not too concerned with hail. If there is any hail, it's probably along the lines of pea and penny size hail, so relatively small right there. Let's go back to NOAA.
Yeah, thanks for that, Scott. And again, I kind of want to take a look at, I can overlay the radar with the web camera, one of our cameras that Scott was taking a look at. So right, we got the heavier thunderstorms that are non-severe at the moment, kind of pushing through the Van Buren area, the Fort Smith area. In the bottom right hand of your screen, you have the Fort Smith, I believe, is it the ACHE? Is that what they call it?
That's right, Arkansas Colleges of Health Education.
So yeah, the medical camera in Fort Smith, that's what we're looking at here. And you can kind of see in the distance there, this is probably, I would say, a shelf cloud, and sometimes lightning illuminates it. And you kind of see, we had some good lightning strikes earlier that kind of illuminates that shelf cloud, but there we go, whoa.
Oof, yes.
Yeah, holy smokes, you guys see that? That was some good cloud to ground strikes out there. Hopefully it didn't hit anything important. But yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about there with that shelf cloud and those ominous clouds that are harmless. We got a lot of lightning that kind of illuminates those clouds. So I always like to maybe get a good visual on what's happening with some of these storms. So yeah, lots of
hail
light.
And we're about to get a hailstorm come through Waldron, I'm afraid. Based off the way this is uptrending. Yeah, when you pull that, you're going to start to see, actually you can come to me if you want, I've got it pulled up. Let me zoom in a little bit tighter here since we're going to be kind of far away. That hail core is probably just minutes, if not less, than coming right into Waldron. Right now it's traveling almost, let's say parallel to 28 to 80, and then it is moving southeast, so it is going to intersect Highway 71 here real soon. You can see these brighter purples and blues, well, that's probably going to be some larger hailstones. Definitely the size of quarters minimally, but I bet we've got some half dollars here, if not up to ping pong size hail. I'm afraid that is going to be coming into Waldron here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. In fact, let's just not even waste time there. Let's put a track on it. We'll go back over to the radar. We'll kind of do it from that perspective. It is a menacing storm. You can kind of see it does have that appearance to it. Currently, it's moving right now southeast at about 30 miles per hour. So that's going to take it into the Waldron community probably within the next, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be soon. Going to take it into Waldron at 11:22, which is 4 minutes from now. Eventually, that is going to roll into, let's say, the Pines, 11:27, and let's say Jenkins School, Lamb School, some of those old historical schools right there around 11:30. So that hail is going to be a big concern for us going into Waldron. Right now, it looks like it could be as large as ping pong size hail. The thing here is, keep in mind, it has been trending up. Let's hope it doesn't get any larger. Warning has been updated to reflect that potential of ping pong size hail potentially coming out of that specific cell. So that remains the strongest one for those of us here in Waldron. Very large hail core. We'll see if we've got an update to pass along to you. If anything is updated in the radar since we've been talking, our hail projections right now continue to move closer and closer to Waldron. In fact, it has come up and that hail core is getting larger, so the areas impacted by that large hail is going to be expanding, I'm afraid. We'll go in tight here. If we want to take Max 2 full screen, that would be fine too. This is going to give you an idea of where we're looking at from terms of a street level perspective of where these large hailstones are likely going to be falling. Okay, we've looped that. There's the track. Here's what's happening. John E. Tate Road, Parker Road, Arkansas Highway 80, moving towards Lower Winfield Road, Haw Creek Loop. That's going to be where we've got the largest hailstones falling at the moment. But this is essentially closing in on the town of Waldron. Here, you've probably got less than 3 minutes at this point before we start to see those hailstones pick up. Certainly some heavy rain in addition to the larger hail. And that's going to be tracking southeast over towards the Pines and eventually down towards, let's say, Bowles, well, maybe not Bowles on this one, but certainly Parks would be next in line after that. So again, right now we have some very large hail falling right along Highway 80, just to the west of Waldron, and it is moving closer and closer to Waldron. By the time you probably hear my voice, we're going to have parts of Waldron experiencing an additional hailstorm. As of right now, again, that's seemingly the largest hail we've got out of any of the storms, and it is certainly the strongest of which we have as well.
Yes, good point. An unfortunate circumstance in Waldron. We thought maybe Waldron would miss the worst of the hail potentially this evening. We had a little bit of hail earlier, and now we do have that hail core that Scott was pretty much highlighting there on top of Waldron. You kind of see it kind of the hail kind of co-locates with some of the highest reflectivity. You see those dark reds and that pink, the magenta color. That's that reflectivity core that we sometimes look at, and almost kind of resembles yet another supercellular shape there, especially with a little bit of that hook. I was looking at rotation a little bit earlier while Scott was talking about the hail, and I can show you guys, but it didn't really look anything impressive, and I can walk you through it. Of course, this is mainly going to be a hail issue, so I want to make sure that people in Waldron are away from windows, especially with any wind-driven hail that's going to be moving through. We'll take a look at any rotation. So right now we want to kind of take a look at any bright reds or bright greens that are really close to each other. And yes, we have some bright greens and some bright reds, but they're not necessarily super closely compact to each other, and so nothing really jumps out. And yeah, we have some greens here and some bright reds, but notice in this middle, some kind of this almost looks like a gray color. So that's some more broad area of any circulation up top, and we're not really concerned with that at the moment. So that's a rotation, but obviously the bigger story is the hail, and potentially the hail has maybe just come down, maybe just before Waldron. We can still, of course, sample that. This is for 1.5-inch hail, which I believe is ping pong balls. That's what this is warned for. And you can kind of see quarter to ping pong ball sized hail with the system as it rolls, unfortunately, right on top of Waldron. And so that's going to be kind of continuing to push its way across Arkansas Highway 71 there. Here's Arkansas Highway 80 that pushes its way eastward.
I've taken a vertical slice of this storm, and we currently have these storm tops. When we start talking about a vertical slice of the storm, the reason we really love to be able to slice and dice these things almost as if it's a piece of cake, it gives us a really up close and personal look at what's happening in the storm. And what we find is the hail core right now, likely is situated right on top of Waldron. That's where you see those purples moving through Waldron, pretty much right on top of 71 at this point. Now, the storm top's up to 30,000 feet. I always like to point out that commercial airliners fly around 30,000 feet. And so when you have a thundercloud that has billowed that high, it only happens because you've got a really strong updraft. And those strong updrafts is what pretty much develops these hailstones. And that's what you see happening right there. When you look at the pocket of purple, that's where we're going to find the largest of hailstones, potentially to ping pong size. We hope, though, that maybe they're melting a little bit towards the surface. We hope that perhaps the radar may be just kind of overdoing it, but the maximum potential for it is certainly going to be ping pong size coming out of this cell right now, moving through the town of Waldron. If you're streaming us from Waldron, I don't want you to put yourself in danger, but if you are in Waldron, I'd love to know what size you can report, when it is safe to report that. Number here, 479-785-5000. You can send that to us. And if you have pictures, perfect. If you don't, no worries. I just would really like to know kind of what the size of the hail is that we're dealing with here. We, of course, get the radar estimates, and that's generally pretty good, but right now that is going to be our biggest concern. Specifically, one other small piece of perhaps some good information here. Let me turn the radar back upside right so we can look at it correctly. It looks like, at least for parts of Logan County, the warning has been expired. So now this thunderstorm is going to be strongest only in Scott County. It almost looks like a little Pac-Man getting ready to gobble old Waldron up. It's not going to, but it is going to drop some hail on top of you in addition to some wind. So if you were in that initial warning for Boonville and Logan County, they've trimmed you out of it. You've still got a thunder shower rolling through, but that's about all that is. It's just a good old-fashioned thunder shower. Before I turn it back to Noah, let me just take a wide perspective one more time. Nothing else is misbehaving. Northwest Arkansas is relatively quiet. The severe thunderstorm watch for Northwest Arkansas has been allowed to expire. We maintain that severe thunderstorm watch for portions of the River Valley, good chunk of it, certainly where we have those thunderstorms rolling through right now. For the latest on those, we'll go back to Noah.
Well, thanks for that, Scott. Yeah, unfortunately, it looked like the hail core with this storm is pretty much going to pass right on top of Waldron, which is unfortunate news. I believe the severe thunderstorm warning, it's going to be continued for pretty much central Scott County here, like you see on the screen. This was going to be for 1.75-inch hail as opposed to 1.5, so it's come up just a little bit. For perspective, 1.75, that's about golf ball-sized hail. To kind of put that in perspective there, that's pretty much, unfortunately, right on top of Waldron right now. And we'll kind of go and take a look here a little bit closer and maybe get some town and street names here. It's not a tornado warning, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, but still, we got some large hail with this. We always like to tell people, stay away from windows because when you get, well, golf balls potentially flying from the sky, again, unfortunately, you have your darkest red, your pink magenta color right on top of the Waldron town. And so it's unfortunate that we're going to be seeing a hail core pretty much right on top of the city here. We're going to be pushing our way into the Pines, into Fairs Chapel here, especially into Manor Crest Road. It takes me a hard time to kind of read some of these roads as this hail core continues to push its way southeast of Waldron here, as it's pretty much hailing right now in the Waldron vicinity. We'll take a look at maybe any rotation right now. It's very broad with some of those greens and reds on there. We can even look at a rotation detector. And yeah, so the rotation detector, here's the key that we're looking at. You want to see some of these dark blue colors. That's kind of what we're seeing out here. So nothing that looks very concerning is even rotation detector. You would want to see some bright blues, purples, pinks, and we certainly don't want to see that. We're not seeing that at the moment as that storm continues to push its way southeastward and is at 35 miles an hour, Scott?
That's correct, still 35 miles per hour.
So we'll get a quick storm track on this, as this is going to be exiting Scott County here relatively soon, relatively momentarily. And we'll take a look at this as it's moving southeast at 35. And unfortunately, we do have some hail with it as this severe thunderstorm warning kind of continues for central and east central Scott County. So we'll do a little storm track, make sure I don't hit anything here. And we'll take that generally in this direction. That's going to put it Jenkins School right now at 11:28. Bowles 11:35, so about 7 to 8 minutes from now. If you're familiar with the Bowles Free Will Baptist Church, or if you live in that vicinity, you hopefully get the idea that that's when that storm is going to be working its way in. Parks Baptist Church about 11:39, so just over 10 minutes. Potentially at Harvey here in about less than 20 at 11:45. And then hopefully it weakens by then, but potentially by midnight there at Big Brushy Recreation Site as that storm continues to push its way southeastward outside of Scott County and eventually into Polk County and potentially Montgomery County, Arkansas.
If we could pull up Max 2 full screen, I've got a live look in Fort Smith again as that strong thunderstorm continues to roll through. This is a look at I-540 from Rogers Avenue. And many times folks have been just crawling given the intensity of the rain and the wind. It looks like maybe a few folks are picking up some speed there on the northbound side. Nonetheless, a very intense thunderstorm is moving through right now as that cell continues to track through portions of the River Valley, including Fort Smith, Lavaca, Barling, Bacola. That's getting ready to move into Hackett. I did just get a message from, let's see here, that's going to be a message from Joyce wondering about Hackett, and this storm is rolling your direction. It's not severe at the moment, however, it is strong, and so we want to be very careful to see if it doesn't try to pulse back up. It's now moved into Mulberry, Cecil, and Charleston. Greenwood, eventually Washburn will be next in line. This little Boeing segment here has quickly transitioned into more of a wind potential as opposed to a hail potential. But that's kind of the two different dynamics that we've got as we see this linear structure on radar. And I'll pull that up for us. That linear structure that is starting to develop is often going to lend itself more to a damaging wind perspective, which is what we start to see. Again, it's not severe at the moment, but we do nonetheless have a fair amount of wind. We're coming out of this little Boeing segment right here that's pretty much running from Mulberry back over towards Spiro. Now, the difference between our Scott County cell, and there's a new warning in effect for that, or I don't know if it's new or if it was updated, but a warning nonetheless for Waldron and Parks. The difference between that and this cell is this one is still maintaining its discrete nature. It's not battling on the atmosphere for all the ingredients that are still there. It's just kind of by itself, which allows it to maintain that structure, allows it to maintain a healthy updraft, which is pushing those raindrops really high into the sky where we start to see those hailstones form. And so that's the difference there. Linear structure, yeah, you can have a little bit of hail coming out of it in parts of, let's say, Sebastian, Franklin, LaFleur counties. But more than likely, that's going to be heavy, heavy rain. In fact, one of our storm chasers has messaged me letting me know that heavy rain, loud thunder for sure in that area, as well as frequent lightning and thunder. Also just got a message. Let's see, this is going to be a storm report near Mercy Hospital in Waldron. The larger ones are $half size as hail. It's the first hail we've had during the storm between 11 and 11:30. So $half size hail being reported right now in Waldron. We'll let Noah continue tracking that.
Yeah, some good reports to pass along. It's always important whenever we have ground truth from people sending in hail reports, as long as you can do it safely. And I do want to say that new warning that did get passed along that got extended for Scott and Polk County, which is just south of Scott County, that got extended. Obviously, that's what that new warning is for. That kind of gets into southeastern Scott County. Remember, this is a tornado warning. Looks like we might have some really large hail just to our south in southwestern Arkansas, but let's focus in on this Scott County cell. This warning, last time I checked, it looks like the Weather Service kind of put the hail down a little bit. You can kind of see the hail has come, it just passed through Waldron a few minutes ago. The hail has probably come down just a little bit. So this warning, instead of maybe golf ball sized hail, this is warned for at least for the Parks area, and as we exit Scott County, this is warned for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts with this new severe thunderstorm warning that get extended into Scott County, Polk County, and also northwestern Montgomery County. Again, this red, it is a flash flood warning. We've seen lots of repeated rounds of heavy rainfall. And if, in fact, if we look at this light blue area, we're probably going to be looking at some quarter-sized hail. And we did have some $half-sized hail reported in the Waldron area. Unfortunately, the town of Waldron did get some larger hail as that hail core pretty much passed through. We'll jump back to radar real quick. We'll kind of see what it's looking at, looking like right now. And here we go. Here's radar. And you kind of see that red, that dark red, that little pink magenta color. That's typically not all the time, but typically where your largest hail is going to be within your storm. And it still almost kind of looks like that supercellular struck with maybe just a little bit of a hook there south of Waldron. We're not concerned about rotation at the moment, and hopefully that continues to be the case. But you can see where that heaviest hail is, just southeast of Waldron. So still has exhibiting some signs of some of that hail as it pushes into parks, southeastern Scott County, and eventually outside of our viewing region. So that's going to be moving southeast. I believe the new time was, our new speed was at 30 miles an hour. And so we'll kind of do a little quick storm track one more time before we'll jump to the Fort Smith and Van Buren storms. And moving southeast about 30 here, and we'll kind of account for this whole line of storms here. It's going to take it through the heart of this warning. Make sure I don't step into anything here. And, well, we talked about bowls. About 5 minutes from now, it's going to be entering bowls. Parks are included in this. You got about 10 minutes, so ideally stay away from windows here. Also the Parks Baptist Church, Pencil Bluff First Baptist Church, and the Refuge Baptist Church as well at about 12:23 in the morning. Crazy that we're going to be talking about the morning, but we still have a couple of those stronger cells, and we'll jump back to the Fort Smith, Van Buren area here, and we'll kind of see where the heaviest rainfall is, because I've kind of just been focusing on that Scott County cell. Obviously, we've got some heavier pockets of rainfall from Mansfield to Boonville up to Charleston. And, well, the heaviest rainfall is in Pensacola, Fort Smith to Greenwood and Lavaca. And that's ideally where that heaviest pocket of not just rainfall is, but your thunder and lightning. And we'll zoom in a little bit closer here. And maybe it'll show up. Maybe it won't. It doesn't look like it's showing up. But I was hoping the Budweiser can would show up. But that's okay. You got to get the idea. Heavy rain, some thunder and lightning pushing through the Fort Smith area. It's non-severe at the moment, and we'll look at some winds. And we don't have a special, do we have a special weather statement for this, Scott, or is it just?
We do. In fact, I'll go ahead and read off the latest for that for you. That special weather statement does run all the way over to the Sebastian Logan County line, really. I should say Franklin. So Sebastian through Franklin over to the Logan County line. Lavaca, Charleston included within that, and that's for the potential of 40-mile-per-hour straight-line winds. No hail detected, so 40 or so mile-per-hour winds. Very intense, heavy rainfall, and in one respect, that's good news. We need the rain, but it is all going to come somewhat quickly, and as we all well know, Fort Smith has some drainage issues, and we start to see some localized flooding, and that is going to be of a concern for us. If we could, let's pull up, it'll be max 2. If we could pull up max 2 full screen, right now it's going to show your radar. Give me a second. I want to take you back to 540. I'm talking to one of our storm chasers in Fort Smith that's reporting very intense rainfall. When you look at Rogers Avenue, the exit here along 540, you can kind of see that. In fact, southbound traffic there moving with their flashers. That's smart. That's going to continue to cause some traffic issues for those that may be going to the work overnight or getting off second shift, whatever that means for you in the River Valley. We know that this is going to impact your travel this evening as well. So be sure to keep that in mind. You're going to want to take it slow, right? Don't want to have anyone hydroplaning out there tonight, and that's going to be a possibility for some of us, especially where that water isn't draining very well. I want to take you, while we're here, into a couple other areas in Fort Smith. We're going to start our tour along Rogers Avenue. This, of course, is going to be Mercy Hospital. We're looking off towards the west. What I would like to do is adjust this camera to get an idea of more so into specifically Rogers Avenue itself. And that's going to mean I've got to bump this camera over just a tad, and we'll point it down a little bit. You can start to see, yeah, well, of course, it's like almost midnight. There's not going to be a lot of folks out, but a strong storm here nonetheless. We go back over towards the Marshall's Museum. There was a lot of kids taking prom photos here tonight. My word, it's got some electric lightning bolts with it, and that's causing a lot of thunder. And so there's also a possibility folks are waking up tonight if you go to bed early. Number one, I'm jealous. Number two, there's nothing severe rolling through Fort Smith. So if the thunder has woken you up and you've gotten on Facebook or 5 News Plus to get an idea of, okay, what's going on, there's nothing severe in the River Valley proper. There is obviously a very severe thunderstorm moving through Scott County, and we'll turn our attention back to that here in just a couple of moments. But those are the two strongest areas. Rain somewhat lingering across parts of northwest Arkansas. Most of the NWA Metro seemingly began to clear out for the overnight hours. This is a live look from our Arkansas Colleges of Health Education. We can call it AIC. This is in the south side of Fort Smith. It's looking north towards downtown Fort Smith there. And you can see that the conditions are pretty bleak. You're not going to be able to see a lot of anything through that heavy rainfall. Now add in 40 or so mile-per-hour winds blowing that rain around. Visibility is greatly reduced there and around the area. Good news is here, that storm, while it is loud, it's not severe. It's hovering well below those severe weather thresholds. I'm not seeing any evidence of hail on Doppler radar with this specific cell coming through Fort Smith. I do want to take our attention to maybe the POTO camera. While we're here, there are a couple other cells kind of around. I've probably got this pointed in the wrong direction, so let me adjust that. That's actually looking into, it may not be too far off, that's looking over towards the backside of that Fort Smith cell. So you're kind of seeing, if I bump it here now, let's wait for a lightning strike or two, see if we can't get one in the next couple of minutes, and that will likely, there we go, it's going to eliminate that side of the specific cell rolling through. You can see the base of that. It now looks ominous. It kind of looks like what's a big old monster wall cloud. It's not, but it is the base of that thunderstorm, and you can see it crawling slowly into the Sebastian County area. There is a little bit of rain right now in Arcoma and Pensacola, but it's just some rain. Fort Coffee as well. It's just rain, moderate to heavy at times, and there's a fair amount of lightning. So I know if you're hearing those rumbles of thunder, you might be a little nervous and you're thinking, okay, it's been a long day already. What's going on now? It's not severe, so we don't want to worry about that too much. With the update on our lone severe thunderstorm warning, we'll go back to Noah Simmons.
Thanks for that, Scott. And if you're maybe just joining us, maybe to calm anyone's anxiety out there, we're just under a severe thunderstorm watch at the moment for the counties highlighted in this pink area. Overall, this watch is going to be expiring here relatively soon, especially for our Oklahoma counties and even especially for maybe places like Sebastian and Crawford County. It might hold on a little bit longer for places like Scott County and Logan County, where those storms are going to kind of have to continue to push their way eastward. But that's just at severe thunderstorm watch. The potential is going to slowly decrease. I know we've had a couple isolated cells here and there that have kind of pulsed up here and there. In fact, we just have one severe thunderstorm warning at the moment, and that is in far southern Scott County right now. We'll zoom in a little bit on that fellow right now. And here we go. So we'll zoom in here. We pan down. Now we're going to zoom in. And this warning was continued for 1.25 inches hail in diameter. And this is going to be approaching the Parks area. And so to kind of maybe give yourself a bit of a visual clue, 1.25 inches of hail is $half sized hail. So a little bit bigger than a quarter possible with this storm. It's going to be moving into Parks, so make sure we're staying away from windows if we're in Parks or if we're in southeastern Scott County. This is probably too much information, but when I was little, I thought $half sized hail meant half the size of a dollar bill. and that is much bigger than just a $half. So a $half sized hail is still big, but it's not half of a dollar bill, if you know what I'm talking about.
I never thought about that, but honestly, that's that's a pretty honest mistake. I think that's actually relatable.
But anyways, yeah, we're not seeing hail that big, and hopefully we don't see a hail that big. We technically did see a hail that big earlier in the evening. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but we'll just kind of take a look at this storm a little bit more in depth. So the hail just went through Waldron, unfortunately. We've had multiple rounds of storms kind of just slam Scott County right now. We'll zoom in a little bit more here to that cell and to just kind of the strongest hail core there. So here's Parks and here's Bowles. So between Bowles and Parks, that's where the hail is going to be pushing its way southeastward. And we'll jump to hail. The hope is that maybe it has come down, and that's some good news. We're not seeing any blues on the map. Doesn't mean the storm can't pulse up. It's pulsed up before, could potentially do so again, but we're maybe not looking at hail of that large. It says pennies. I'm not sure if the storm's come down that quickly, but still, let's probably be away from windows between Bowles and Parks. We could easily see up to quarter-sized hail with this. It's warned for hail just a little bit bigger than that. So that's our hail detector. That's really the only hail that we have to talk about in some of those storms at the moment. We'll kind of go back to reflectivity. This is going to be exiting Scott County here momentarily, but this warning is going to kind of continue to just about a little after midnight as this kind of continues to work its way. But really, once you kind of get past midnight, the bulk of the storm is going to be probably almost exiting Scott County, and hopefully by then we can maybe get off the stream. Not because we don't like you guys, it's just because, well, severe weather potential is going to be much lower, and we don't necessarily have to stream if we're not really seeing any severe potential, because we've been on since about 4:30. So it's been about 7 hours now since we've been on. We actually had a tornado warning earlier. Our 6 o'clock newscast got blown out because of a tornado warning. Luckily, there's no reports of a tornado. In fact, speaking of reports, if you're kind of wondering what we've seen so far today, take a look at all of our hail reports that we've seen. I mean, this is pretty crazy. We did have a storm move through between about Greenland and West Fork. We also had a severe thunderstorm in northern Johnson County, so produced some hail reports there. But if we kind of go into parts of the Ouachitas and south of Interstate 40, we had some really, really large hail. In fact, I kind of want to focus in on some of these hail reports. We're not going to be seeing any hail, this big that we're going to be talking about, but I mean, we had some big hail, and specifically, I'm going to zoom in on Hartford. Maybe one of these is going to pop up, and this might blow your mind. It might not. I'm not sure, but take a look at this. Look at the hail size. 2.5 inches in diameter. This was earlier this evening. This was at 8 o'clock, so we were still streaming there. This was in the Hartford area in Sebastian County. 2.5 inches. That's tennis ball size hail. That's almost baseball sized hail falling from the sky. You kind of get the idea. We had some very large hail. We even had some large hail kind of by Y City. That was about 1 inch in diameter. We even had some hail that was just under 2 inches. So talking about hen egg to teacup sized hail. Very large hail, right? We had southwest of Poto area. We'll kind of see what that pops up. Again, we're talking about almost 2 inches sized hail, and some very large hail. And speaking of hail, we'll take a look at that hail core that just pushed out of Waldron. But you get the idea. We had some very big hail earlier, and that's kind of what we were talking about, the last day or so. We were mainly focused on some hail potential with these storms. And while I'm doing that, Scott, would you mind checking that severe warning and seeing when it expires in Scott County, please?
Yeah, I will do that.
I want to say it's 12:15, 12:30 in the morning, maybe.
12:15.
12:15. Okay, so about another 30 minutes that we're going to be talking about this cell, and it looks like maybe our reflectivity core has maybe come down a little bit.
I agree with that. That's what I've been noticing as well.
And I'll kind of show you what we're kind of seeing and talking about. So notice here's the legend on Doppler radar. We're not really seeing, we're still seeing dark reds, but maybe we're not seeing the pink magenta color just north of Parks area. So maybe that's good. In fact, if we go from reflectivity, and keep in mind what the reflectivity shows, I want to switch to hail here now. Boom, there we go. So now just right around the Parks area, the hail has come down with this. And hopefully that's some great news, because maybe they can expire the warning a little bit earlier. Maybe they don't have to keep it going for 30 minutes, because this is going to be for some hail. Of course, I haven't really checked at some storm winds. Maybe we got some strong winds. Really messy. Kind of hard to tell what's going on here. But I don't really see any strong winds. You want to see really, really bright reds, some really bright greens. We have those colors that are not necessarily bright. They don't really stand out to us, and they don't really make us too concerned. So
if you want to go back into, let's say, South Fort Smith area, I do have one new piece of information that's, well, it's not technically super new, but I just do want to point this out. This is going to be for Hackett, Greenwood, as well as Bacola, Bonanza, let's say Enterprise as well, South Fort Smith. This is, anywhere south of Highway 22, I think that would be good, down to, let's say, Hackett. The severe thunderstorm, no, it's not. It is below severe thresholds, but you very well could be seeing 40 or so mile per hour winds out of that cell, as well as penny-size hail. So, yeah, not severe, but it's that same cell that's been rolling through Sebastian County, Crawford County. Now it's pretty much by and large almost entirely in Sebastian County. Just keep that in mind as we go for the next couple of hours. If you live in southern Sebastian, from Hackett, Greenwood, Mansfield, maybe even Midland, Washburn, you got another one, another storm kind of rolling your direction. It probably doesn't become severe, but we want to watch it to be really close, just to be on the safe side. There's not much storm fuel really available in that part of the area anymore at this point. In fact, when we kind of look at that, virtually there's none at the surface, which tells us the tornado potential is rather low. Now, could there be some elevated instability? Entirely, yes, very possible. But overall, the environment has really been worked over by all of the rain and all the storms we've seen. There's not a lot of juice left to squeeze out of the atmosphere, at least here locally, in terms of low-level energy, low-level storm fuel. So I don't expect a lot of necessarily rotation or tornadoes or things of that nature, but elevated storms that do have some mid-level fuel available to them. That's where we could see that hail potential, and of course some gusty winds coming out of the bottom of some of those thunderstorms. But did just want to pass along that we are looking in and around the Hackett, Greenwood area, Enterprise, and Bonanza of the potential, really the likelihood of some gusty winds, heavy rain, and frequent lightning and thunder.
Thank you for passing that along, Scott. And hey, if we're in the Fort Smith area, if we're in the Hackett area, if we're in the South Fort Smith general area, yes, we're seeing a kind of a stronger thunderstorm, but it's non-severe at the moment. If you're in Northwest Arkansas, the severe thunderstorm watch has been dropped. We don't have any severe weather expected, and that potential is going to continue to go down, especially for our other counties. Pretty much from northwest to southeast, that severe potential is going to sag because this is the line of storms. This is all we got to get through, and hopefully, maybe even by midnight, we'll start to see the severe weather potentially diminish. We still have this warning that goes until 12:15 in the morning, but the hail's really come down, and even the last scan, the hail was even a little bit lower by Parks in Scott County. We're still watching some gusty winds there. We'll zoom in a little bit closer on that southern Sebastian County and southern Franklin County. So right now at the moment, it's pretty much past out of Crawford County. You'll notice that. Van Buren holding on to a little bit of light rain, but here's Charleston, the Lavaca, and Greenwood, some heavy pockets of rainfall there. We can take a look at some hail, and there's probably not going to be much showing up. No, not a whole lot. Not really a lot of storm fuel for these updrafts to sustain some large hailstones, and we'll look at maybe some stronger winds with this, and we can maybe measure some potential winds. Here's our radar site in the Fort Smith area. Let's see what kind of winds we have by the Greenwood area. Yeah, some 40-mile-an-hour winds. That's enough to maybe bring some small tree limbs, some small branches down, and that's kind of what Scott was talking about. Even if we look by Boonville, we were seeing some heavy rainfall, a little bit lighter winds to talk about. We'll maybe take a look at the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. Much lighter winds. So you get the idea, much below severe criteria, but still a few gusty winds that we're seeing out there on the radar.
Looks like we've got a little more than, let's say, a little less than about 20 minutes or so before the warning is allowed to expire for Scott County. The worst of the storm has passed you in Waldron, although technically speaking, you are included in that warning. Little Texas, Odin, Parks, though, you want to be mindful of this storm as it continues tracking almost on top of Highway 28 at Parks right now. Once that's done, I think our severe weather threat, knock on all the wood, is going to be pretty close to being over with. Many of our watches are expiring here in about 10 minutes. I think this one cell, when you look at it over just the last 30 minutes, we see a definitive weakening kind of as it moved out of Waldron. Now, it produced some large hail in Waldron, but as it's continued to track southeast there into the Parks community, still probably dropping some hail. We're not seeing it near as large as it was. The overall storm presentation starting to come down. So one of two things will happen. Either we're going to get to 12:15 and the warning is going to be allowed to expire, or the storm itself is going to move out of Scott County, essentially rendering that warning null and void. At any rate, the storm itself is somewhat weakening. Does it maintain its strength enough to warrant a additional severe thunderstorm warning in Polk County? Perhaps. That'll be up to the Weather Service in Little Rock to decide. Right now, though, I'm telling you from what I'm seeing, that little thunderstorm is starting to behave. It's not there yet. Still probably is producing some quarter-size hail, but largely that is going to be tracking towards the southeast. Now, when you start to look at the overall presentation of what's left, you've got some strong thunderstorms in Franklin, Sebastian County. Those are getting ready to move into Logan County as well. Good soaking rain coming out of these. A lot of lightning, and that's going to wake a lot of folks up. So just for some housekeeping here, we'll probably remain in place on the stream. We might give ourselves a water break or two every once in a while. Once the warning is allowed to expire, we'll leave radar up, should that be the case. But right now, I would anticipate that thunderstorm likely staying below severe limits as it exits Franklin and Sebastian, moving towards Logan County. I know you got some moderate rain from Boonville through Paris over towards New Blaine, but you're going to start to see some heavier rain roll through, a healthy amount of lightning with that cell. So it is probably going to wake a fair amount of folks up. That's a check of kind of what we're looking at on radar right now. We'll show you, I didn't regret this earlier. I'm always nervous to show weather models when I've not got a chance to see them first. You know what? That one shows a lot of things tapering off after 1 a.m. That's one. Look at a different one for us. And that one kind of probably showing the same thing, but maybe initializing a little bit better there. So at any rate, I don't think we're going to be here for the long term. If you're one of those folks that just can't go to sleep, if because it's thundering, it's lightning, there's been severe weather, you have right to be at least a little anxious, right? We'll continue to be here for a little bit longer until that severe weather threat is totally over. I do suspect we're not far from that. I know the watches for most of the area in Sebastian, LaFleur, Sequoia, and Crawford County are going to be allowed to expire, perhaps Franklin as well, here at midnight. So here in about 3 minutes, 7 minutes, well, I've got 2 clocks in front of me and they show 2 different times. Those are going to be allowed to expire. Weather Service out of Little Rock is responsible for the Logan and Scott County watch. That's going to probably stay in effect a little bit longer as long as we've got storms rolling through. But once those clear, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see those beginning to clear out. I've not checked the overall risk zones. It doesn't really matter at this point, simply because we are clearly on the tail end of the event. Looking ahead to tomorrow, there's at least a level 1 potential of severe storms across the area, which is, you know, a much better setup than perhaps what we saw today with 3s and 4s across the region. Tomorrow is probably going to be a bit of a boom or a bust type of situation. There are 2 different scenarios. The bust would be that nothing at all develops, and I think we could all collectively agree that is what we all want. Now, the boom potential is there are a few different thunderstorms that do break that invisible cap, and they probably do become efficient hellmakers all over again for some of the region. So that's kind of a look ahead to tomorrow. I'm afraid there's probably going to be a potential for us on Monday as well. It's a lower end potential. That is late April in Oklahoma and Arkansas after all. So we're not necessarily surprised. This isn't anything unusual. Doesn't mean that it's any more fun. So that's kind of a setup with what we're looking at. We'll go back to Noah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Scott. Yeah, we're on the tail end of things, and we'll kind of jump back into some of these cells. Remember, Northwest Arkansas, the watch has been dropped. We're not even seeing any rain at the moment, maybe with the exception of Madison County, some light to moderate pockets of rainfall. The heaviest of thunderstorms has pushed through Fort Smith, the Van Buren area. Maybe heads up in Lavaca, maybe getting in on some of those heavier showers and storms. We'll zoom in a little bit closer, but right now our Oklahoma counties are pretty much in the clear as well, and we'll potentially could maybe see some of those counties get dropped from the severe thunderstorm watch. So there you go, Greenwood to Lavaca to Charleston. Yeah, some heavier pockets of rainfall. It's good beneficial rainfall that we'd certainly need, and we need to make up a lot of room in terms of the last. This goes back to the last 6 months. It's really when our drought started. Keep in mind, it was a very dry November, a very dry December for almost everybody. Dry November and December of 2025, since we're now in 2026, of course. So we definitely have some room, and this is going to help with our new drought monitor that updates every Thursday. So about 5 days, we'll take a look at the drought monitor, see what this rain did help. We have multiple opportunities at some more rainfall this week. I don't think it's going to be anything, though, like what we're going to be seeing out there. There's that severe thunderstorm warning. It's going to be expiring here in about 15 to 20 minutes here, and really the hail has come down a little bit with this. We'll take a closer look at this cell. Still kind of a heavier shower just north of Waldron, but fear not, that's not severe. It's kind of been a long afternoon and evening for some folks, and you kind of see reflectivity is certainly coming down just east of Parks. This is in far rural southeastern Scott County as this warning kind of continues for the next several minutes. We'll take a look at hail. My guess is that the hail is probably coming down as well, and that's exactly what's happening. Pretty much right on top of Highway 28. This is probably the smallest the hail has been since we've been tracking this storm, since about at the end of our 10 o'clock newscast, which ended about 10:30. And so that's good that that hail is kind of on the much smaller end. We're probably looking at maybe pea-sized to maybe penny-sized hail. Again, this is less than a quarter, so whenever you see those gray, maybe think maybe up to nickel-sized hail. We're definitely seeing lower potential for a hail, and I'm kind of hoping the warning gets expired here in the next few minutes as this kind of continues to trend downward. We'll look at winds and some wind gusts with this. We got some strong outbound winds there, and that's going to kind of push its way southeastward throughout time. We'll zoom out a little bit more here with the Scott County cell, and yeah, we got some strong winds indicate with those bright reds, even some of those bright greens. We'll take a look at rotation detector if we're curious to see maybe if we're seeing a little anything out there. Not much. It's this little dark blue, this violet area just east of Park, so it doesn't really look anything too concerning right now at the moment, and that's some good news. Let's take a trip up into Logan County and Franklin County and Johnson County and see how they're doing, and with some of those heavier pockets of rainfall that we're seeing. So now we're in the Logan County, Boonville to Paris. The rain's not super heavy, but keep in mind this heavier batch is pushing its way eastward, and once it does so, that'll probably be our last push, our last oomph of some heavy rain for the rest of the night. Clarksville getting hit on some light rain. Coal Hill to Ozark along 40 there. Definitely some light to moderate rainfall out there. It's good rainfall. We need it, and that's what we're talking about there on Doppler radar. In terms of talking about our severe zones, oh, that's the wrong button. We really have seen that severe zone. It was maximized into portions of southeastern Oklahoma. Interestingly enough, though, it looked like over the last several hours, since we've been streaming since about 4:30 this afternoon, it looked like most of the severe weather was in the LaFleur, Sequoia, Sebastian, Scott County. There's a little bit of a gap, but then as you kind of see where these flash flood warnings, we had some more active severe storms. So there's almost a little bit of a gap in southeastern Oklahoma. So you're potentially lucky if you maybe live in maybe the McAllister to say Antlers, Oklahoma, in that vicinity. And we'll kind of take a look.
For the record, that's a Dr. Pepper Zero. Don't even get any ideas. If you need me to prove it to you, you can pull the camera off. It's simply a Dr. Pepper Zero. It's not what you think it was.
Yeah, let's get confirmation on that. Okay.
Not sponsored. Right. No product placement. It's just my drink of choice tonight. I need some coffee in this, and I just didn't want anyone to hear that and think, oh gosh, what's that weatherman up to?
Yeah, anytime you hear that on a Saturday night, you never know what's happening.
Yeah, it was fair for you to ask for confirmation.
Yeah. Well, that's good that we're drinking a different beverage there. But yeah, you see Paris to Clarksville, some of that rainfall. This storm is almost out of Scott County, and when that happens to be the case, we will probably be ending the stream. In fact,
looks like there's the new update there from them.
Oof. Let's take a closer look at that while we kind of wait for that update to come in.
That is going to be, they've dropped it to a base warning. So at one point we had that like 1.25 inch potential. Now we're down to quarters. So they're just kind of confirming there what we've been discussing is the likelihood of that cell continuing to weaken.
And officially it is good morning. So happy Sunday morning. And the clock just struck midnight. I hope this clock is right. Yeah, it looks like it's right. Midnight there. And as Scott just mentioned, it looks like the hail has definitely come down with this storm. It just doesn't look as impressive as, say, when it was rolling through Waldron. Actually, I am curious. Let's look at Waldron. There is just a small cell just north of you. Almost looks like it has maybe a little bit of higher reflectivity there.
For the folks in Waldron, I know what they're all thinking. Could it just not?
Yeah.
I agree.
Especially north of Waldron, right on Square Rock Methodist Church. We'll take a look at hail. Wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe some smaller hail with this. Yes, that's exactly what that light gray is indicating. But we're probably not looking at very big hail. So if you're in Waldron and you're thinking, oh man, not again, we're looking at way less than a quarter, probably maybe some pea-sized to maybe some maybe penny-sized hail with this. But bottom line, the hail is much lower with that, and that severe warning is going to kind of continue to work its way southeastward. And I believe that warning is still expires at 12:15. Is that correct,
right.
Scott?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, so really just we'll go back to home base real quick and just talk about what we're seeing, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap this up here in the next couple of minutes, because it's been a long afternoon, a long evening for a lot of folks, even including us. We've been tracking it. Luckily, we didn't have any tornadoes. We had a couple tornado warnings earlier. We had a report of a rotating wall cloud as well as a funnel cloud into the Huebner area in LaFleur County. So we had that tornado warning. That came in about 6:15 this evening, and it got extended a little bit into parts of southern Sebastian County and Scott County. Did not produce a tornado. We did see lots of hail damage, though. And if you did get impacted by hail damage, I feel for you. It's just another thing you got to worry about. We had some pictures that came in that was tennis ball to baseball-sized hail, which is crazy to think about. But we did have the potential out there that some storms could exhibit some of those signs. And luckily, as we kind of get toward that midnight hour, we're not dealing with hail, anything close to that. So that's where the rain and storms are. I'm going to circle this area here right now, kind of give you a good visual. I don't want to say it's self-explanatory. Sometimes it's self-explanatory. Sometimes it's not to some folks. So I'll kind of circle this area. Basically, if you're west of this little curvy line that I just showed, we're pretty much in the clear. We don't have to worry about it. It's just this little batch of rain and storms from southern Madison County through Franklin, Johnson County, Logan County, eastern Sebastian County, and Scott County. Once these showers and storms continue to push their way southeastward, then we'll be done, and that severe weather potential really goes down, and hopefully here in the next 5 minutes, we'll kind of be off the stream here as that warning is going to kind of continue to get expired as it exits Scott County. It's almost pretty much at the Polk County line into Arkansas. So that's what we're looking at. Real quick, I just want to go and talk about the watches here real quick, because here's some good news. All of our counties under Tulsa's jurisdiction, Tulsa covers all of these counties with the exception of Logan and Scott County. And is Johnson County included in?
Johnson is Little Rocks, yep.
Okay, Johnson's Little Rock. So Johnson County kind of got left with the thunderstorm watch, but nonetheless, basically this watch is going to be expiring here the next few hours. And really, once this cluster of storms in this area that I'm kind of highlighting, once that pushes through, that watch is going to be dropped.
Right.
And so we don't have to talk about the severe potential for much longer. And again, that severe warning only continues for about 10 more minutes for far southeastern Scott County. So that's what the watch is for, right? We don't have any tornado watches. We don't have any more severe thunderstorm watches. I think Scott touched on this a little bit. The severe weather risk for tomorrow is much, much lower, and that's good news. Potentially maybe some stronger storms here or there. It's more of a conditional threat, meaning that a lot of folks probably aren't going to see any storms tomorrow. If you do see a storm, it could potentially easily become on the stronger side. So that's kind of our severe zone for Sunday. We technically do have one on Monday. I didn't really touch on this a little bit in my newscast when I did the 10. That's two. I think this is the wrong. Okay, so this should show. So I guess this did change a little bit. So this is supposed to show Monday. It shows Tuesday. This is supposed to show Monday. So this is Monday's threat. The greatest threat is into Arkansas and especially into Missouri. You'll notice we are still into that level 1 out of 5 severe weather risk. When I forecasted earlier, I have this about a 30% chance of seeing a couple isolated storms for the area. I don't think everyone gets hit. Now, could that change the next 36 hours? It's possible with new forecast data, but just kind of some lower end severe weather risk days. And then probably once we kind of get past that, we'll start to transition into potentially a bit more of a quiet pattern temporarily. Obviously, we know that May can start to ramp up, at least heading into the weekend. Next weekend, I should say, it looks a little bit more quiet. So that's really just what we're going to be talking about here. And we'll just talk about radar real quick, and we'll just talk about the Scott County cell one last time, and then we could probably, I'll leave this up to Scott, but we'll probably be able to, potentially hand things off.
Yeah, so what I think we're going to do is, now that warned storm Noah is about to show you, for all practical purposes, it's no longer severe, and it is moving out of Scott County. It's basically in Polk at this point. I do think we can stop actively tracking that. What we're going to do is we'll keep this stream up for a little bit longer, as loud thunderstorms are probably going to continue moving through the river valley for a couple of more hours. So we'll keep this stream up in case I need to come back in here. We'll already have it in place, and perhaps someone wakes up and sees the stream, and we might not be on it, but we're sitting right here waiting just in case we need to be. Maybe that could be useful as well. But that warning runs until 12:15, so I do think it would probably be wise to let's go ahead and just keep it standard operating procedure. We're going to stick here actively tracking that severe thunderstorm warning, even though the severe storm itself is probably not severe anymore. Essentially what the Weather Service is allowed to do, sometimes they're allowed to cancel warnings early, but when they get within so few minutes of the original expiration, they're actually not allowed to cancel early. They got to just let it run the clock out. That's what we're doing right now. For all practical purposes, that storm rolling through far southeastern Scott County is not severe, and more than likely is moving well out of Scott County. So we're not too concerned with that. Now, is there still a heavy little thunder shower rolling through Waldron? Yes, that's not severe. It's just kind of moving into an old warning. Looks can be deceiving. So you do have that thunder shower, Waldron, Highway 80 east of 71, and you're thinking, okay, well, is that severe? No, not technically. It's not severe at all. It's just moving into a box, a polygon that's left over from the hailstorm that rolled through around 11:30 earlier this evening, evening. I don't know what it is. So that's not severe. Strong thunderstorms rolling through parts of, let's say, Charleston and Cawksville, Ratcliffe, getting in on the action. Washburn, Boonville, you're probably hearing the rain pick up, some winds gusting. It's not severe, and that radar presentation to me looks pretty, let's say, disorganized and overall not concerning. So largely speaking, I don't want to jinx us, but it looks like the severe weather threat is dwindling quickly. It's not completely over. We can't shut that door just yet. But for a lot of us in Northwest Arkansas, I can give you the all clear. Go to bed. If you're in East Oklahoma, I can give you the all clear. Go to bed. Now, this is where it gets a little dicey. If you're in Alma, Fort Smith, Hackett, go to bed. I think you're going to be in fine shape. We'll keep actively tracking the rest of these. May not be on camera. We'll probably leave the light radar sweep up, mute our mics, go get another cup of coffee, another Dr. Pepper Zero, and we'll maintain our footing here, watching them just in case they don't pulse up. But I'm feeling pretty good for the first time in, several hours. We've been streaming live for, collectively about 8 hours at this point. We started right around 4 p.m., or maybe it was 4:30, but closing in on 8 hours. And I think for the first time since kind of all this began to pop up, we're in a much better position than what we were going into this event. Most of the storm fuel has been spent up. A lot of the dynamics that were at play aren't present anymore. And we're really seeing these showers turn into just that. And that's awesome. We need some good soaking rain. For a fair amount of folks there in Logan, Southern Franklin, Eastern Sebastian County, you're going to get just that and not have to worry about the hail and the wind. You may have to worry about a little bit of lightning and some thunder. Maybe kind of tough to sleep for a couple hours with that, but it is certainly getting better with each passing minute, and we welcome that. Got about 6 more minutes to run the clock out on that severe thunderstorm warning for Scott County. That's going to be about it. We can do this. Let's take a look at some of the storm reports that came through. Now, not every report that we've got so far has made it into the system. In fact, what you're seeing right now are only the largest of hailstones that have made it into the system. There are a lot of others that haven't made it into the system right yet, but you can clearly kind of see what we were looking at. The focal point was where we had this level 3 and level 4 risk of severe storms. Now, that ran pretty much from Vian through Greenwood, points to the south. You can see a whole cluster of where we saw those tennis ball size hailstones earlier. I think we had some baseball size hail at points. I can't quite remember. I know that was near Loving, outside of Heavener. Heavener saw some very large hail. We did have a broken tree limb here. I think this was going to be along, gosh, I remember right. That was going to be, is that highway, I don't want to lie to you. Was it 10? Tree branches blown over to a power line. That was, yep, that was Highway 10. I'm surprised I got that right. Did have some large hail in West Fork and Greenland, across parts of Washington County. That tracked into Madison, kind of fell apart there. We did have another severe thunderstorm for northern Johnson County. Over towards Ozone, we saw quarter-size hail. But for the most part, Northwest Arkansas and north of Interstate 40 didn't get much. Now, because it's 12:11 and we're tired and grumpy, I'm going to say this. I got a fella posted on my Facebook. I had posted a picture of some, like it was baseball-sized hail that had come out of LaFleur County, just gosh, 15, 20 miles southwest of Fort Smith. And he said he was, he used a choice word that I can't say. I'm not going to say on the stream. He was really mad at the weatherman because Fort Smith hadn't got nothing, as if he would have welcomed baseball-sized hail. Getting nothing today was good news. No one wanted anything today because if you got something today, there was a good chance it was going to be pretty bad. And that's what we ended up seeing with all these hailstorms. Hail was the predominant issue for us, and that is going to continue to be the case should anything else pulse up tonight. And I'll just repeat myself, I don't think that's likely going to be the case for really many of us at all. So that's kind of a look at the overall storm reports. Most of it was hail. There were a couple of wind damage reports that came in, but for the most part, that was hail. You know, I'm not an insurance adjuster. I don't know much about the insurance industry, but I would be willing to bet that we're looking at a multi-million-dollar hailstorm in LaFleur, southern Sebastian, and parts of Scott County, given the scope, the amount of storms that rolled through, and the intensity of the hail. We weren't talking just quarter-size hail, right? We were talking some significant hail on terms of tennis ball to baseball size hail in some of the strongest storms. And unfortunately, that wasn't rare. That wasn't isolated. That happened kind of in a more of a widespread fashion, if you will. So not only from a home and a business and a vehicle perspective, but that did roll through parts of an area that is agriculturally driven. It did probably cross through some crops and some fields. There's going to be damage there. And naturally, of course, if we had any backyard gardens, there's probably going to be some damage there. But I think, needless to say, a very expensive hailstorm has rolled through. That is something that we'll be tracking in the days to come as we continue to hear more from local officials and authorities there with regards to how much they estimate this hailstorm likely is going to total up to. But multi-million-dollar for sure. And again, I'll stay in my lane and not try to mess with insurance. But at any rate, we're about 1 minute away from the expiration of that severe thunderstorm warning. Let's give this about the next few seconds to see when that falls off for Scott County. There is no reason to reissue that. There will continue to be some heavy downpours, frequent lightning and thunder rolling through there, but nothing severe. So folks up in the booth, I don't want you to do this yet, but get ready to take Max 1 full screen. You can mute our mics and we will leave radar streaming. I will pop back in. I do plan to do that, whether there's a warning or not, just to give you an update on those thunderstorms, kind of where they're at. Are they behaving? Are they continuing to trend down? So we'll keep the stream going, but we're probably going to take a break. My dogs are barking. I'm going to sit down for a hot second. I love my Crocs, but I don't know if they're made for 8 hours of standing. Okay, there goes that severe thunderstorm warning. So if we could, I don't know, I think we had a shift change. I don't know what producer we have with us here this evening, or this morning, I should say. Let's go ahead and take Max 1 full, and that is going to be on 48-hour rainfall estimates.
I can switch it to radar real quick.
Yeah, if you don't mind, but my word, there's a good chunk of folks that got 3 or 4 inches of rain.
Oh yeah.
Man, we love that. Okay, if you'll mute our mics, folks on the stream, stand by. We'll keep checking back in with you here, let's say every 10 minutes or so. All right, good Sunday morning. That is weird to say. We've been here since, Saturday afternoon. Nothing severe. That continues to be the case for us. The last of these little thunderstorms are getting ready to exit the area. There is one stronger thunderstorm that's right now across parts of, let's say, Logan County, just near Boonville, south of Paris. Let's see, what radar do I have open here? Is that going to be... I got too many different computer screens, and I've kind of ran out of energy. I don't know how this has happened. That's in session there. Hope y'all fared well. A lot of folks have some pretty bad damage with the size of the hail that we saw. I mean, it was quite insane hail, really. To think about baseballs and golf balls, that's it's going to total up to a lot of money. I would be willing to bet multi-millions of dollars between LaFleur, Sebastian, and Scott County. Here's that storm rolling through east of Boonville now, closing in on Mount Magazine State Park. That is the strongest of the storms. It is not severe, isn't even close to severe. Not seeing anything more than maybe some pea-sized hail out of that, south of Arkansas 217, there outside of Boonville. May have a little bit of winds, but that's likely going to be about it. Now, once that storm clears us, we're going to be in good shape the rest of the evening. A little bit of light to moderate rain will continue to fall across parts of Logan County, and then we're going to have a quiet evening ahead of us. So that's an update on what we're seeing on live Doppler radar right now. Again, I don't anticipate there being a lot of additional showers or storms develop into the evening and overnight hours, but we'll continue tracking those right here just to be on the safe side. So if you're wondering, can I go back to bed? I think so. Rain and storms are exiting. In fact, I'm going to change this. Rain and storms moving on out. We like that. I can give everyone the all clear to go back to bed. Now, you might be woken up by some thunder here in the next couple of minutes in Logan County, but that's likely going to be it before we continue to see the rain push out and have a pretty quiet overnight. There is a low chance of a couple of severe storms tomorrow, but it's highly conditional. And what I mean by that is there's a better than nothing chance that nothing at all happens. A really good chance nothing happens tomorrow. But if a storm is to blossom and bubble up, then it would likely become pretty severe pretty quickly. That cap, though, looks to hold. That's some good news. Okay, I want to take you back to radar for a few more minutes. I'll check back in here, let's say in 5 or 10 minutes.